Hello, this is Haiku back for my Arena Pauper set review for Lost Caverns of Ixalan. Moving on to the green cards. First green card is Armored Kincaller. Uh, this is just an alright 3/3 that can gain some life. Unfortunately, I don't think this is quite playable, and there's not enough other dinos to really make a dino deck work. So even though it's a very efficiently statted creature, just not quite good enough for what we have in the format now. Basking Capybara, on the other hand, is a 2-mana possible 4/3. Pretty good stat line. It's going to only go in certain decks like Self-Mill and Cycle decks. But it's a pretty efficiently statted creature. The big thing holding it back is that 3 toughness. Even though it's a little bit harder to get the Biograph into play, that card is just so much better because it has 4 toughness. It's just so hard to deal with. But green has plenty of ways to pump up the creatures with Snakeskin Veil, protecting it from a removal, and then making it 4 toughness from then on. I could definitely see this one seeing play. Just a lot of power in one body. Caverns Stomper, a big 6-mana 7/7 that also has some evasion. It ETBs and scries. This would be much better if it ETBs and gained a little bit of life to kind of come back in the game. It's okay. It's just there's no ramp deck that wants to go that high to 6 mana, so unfortunately not quite playable. Disturbed Slumber, a way to animate lands is kind of cool. We already have one of these. Basically, they go in combo decks, and we don't have quite a combo deck that could utilize that. So it's basically just a limited card. Whatley's Final Strike, we already have one of these kind of, I should say, instead of fight spells, bite spells. That slightly bump toughness up. Again, not playable. In the Presence of H's, a dig spell that fills your graveyard. Just at 3 mana, it's not good enough. If it was at 2 mana, yeah, I would be interested, but 3 mana, nope. Calcium Stone Tree, a 3 mana, basically another kind of impulse effect, but then these cards go to the bottom of your library, which again is super bad. You can put the land onto the battlefield, so it is a ramp effect, but then what it ramps you into is just a 5/5 vanilla creature, so just not good enough. And then also the fact that it's restricted to only crafting with caves holds this card way back. We're not going to get any other caves after this set, so it's basically what the caves that we already have spoiled are just not good enough to go into a constructed deck, unfortunately. Malamute Brawler, a 2-mana 2/2, not playable in constructed. Malamute Scythe, not Scythe. It's just like a flash kind of enchantment, a 2/2 that we already have, but now it's in equipment form. So after the creature dies, that you loaded up with enchantments, you can re-equip it. I don't know why you would ever want to do that. Generally, if you're loading up a creature with enchantments, it's going to have hexproof or some other protections from removal. So no place for this card. Malamute Veteran, a 5-mana 5/4 that can grow when it attacks. Yeah, just not quite good enough, unfortunately. Almost there, but just not quite. Mineshaft Spider, a 4-mana 3/4 that can mill 2 cards, not constructed playable, unfortunately. Nurturing Bristleback. Now this is the best cycler, although the art on this card is so bad. Sorry, Mr. Tedrick, about criticizing, but that it does not look good. Anyway, it's unfortunately a good card with bad art. It's a 7-mana 5/5, but it makes it 3/3, so it's in effect 8 power and 8 toughness over 2 different creatures. Very cool stat line. So it's going to be an awesome reanimator target. The fact that it dubs itself and can fix your mana as well, all pretty cool. So I think this is going to be the reanimator target of the future. A lot of power and toughness to kind of sneak into play. In standard Pauper, we don't really have a reanimator spell that's really worth it. You basically save 2 mana to reanimate it. I don't think that's worth it. But in historic, late to dinner is sort of reasonable. Over the Edge, I think this is probably the best of the green cards, unfortunately. So it's a pretty flexible disenchant, but then I think this second ability is pretty cool. Explore twice is pretty strong. So the best case scenario, you get 2 lands off the top of your deck. So it was a draw 2, but also it cleared 2 lands that you were potentially going to waste draw steps on. And then the medium case is it draws 1 and puts a +1/+1 counter, plus you get to you get to surveil. Then the worst case is you get 2 +1/+1s and you surveilled 1 twice. So you didn't get surveilled 2, you surveilled 1 twice. So that's also another reasonable effect for 2 mana. So I think this card is really good. It's just I don't know if there's space for a non-creature in the green decks, and there's not enough artifacts and enchantments that you want to remove after they came into the battlefield. Most of the artifacts and enchantments have ETBs that really make them oppressive, and so it's not really their effect once they're on the board. It's their effect on the ETB that you're really caring about. So cool card, a really unique effect that we haven't had at common before, but I just don't think there's a home for this card. Pathfinding Xjaw, I was pretty happy with this card and I was pretty impressed by it, but coming down on it, it's probably not quite good enough, unfortunately. Poison Dart Frog. Just 1 toughness, it just holds this card back. If it was a 1/2, it'd be a real cool card. At 1/1, it's just not good enough. River Herald Guide. So this one, the 1 toughness is not that bad because when it explores, it might get a little bit bigger. But just again, even so, if it hits, it becomes a 4/2 with vigilance. Or if it hits a non-land, and then if it hits a land, then it's a 3 mana 3/1 that drew a card on ETB. Neither of those are really kind of where the green deck wants to be. I don't think that's going to be playable, but yeah, I just don't think it's going to be playable. A 4/2 on the you get to survey 4/2 ETB surveil with vigilance. Close. And then the 3/1 draw card is not good enough. So you really want the 4/2 surveil, and that doesn't seem good enough either. So yeah, so I don't think this is quite good enough either half. The fact that you can't choose which half you get when it enters the battlefield. Like if there was some way to set up Explore, to type Explore that you could choose if you wanted the +1 or if you wanted to draw the card before you saw what the card was, that would be kind of cool, because then you could size this appropriately to what the opponent's doing. But the fact that you can't choose and it's just kind of random means that you're gonna, 50% of the time you're gonna get the side that you didn't want. So I guess it's not that bad. It's not 50% of the time, but anyway, some portion of the time you're not going to get the side that you want. Seeker of Sunlight, it's kind of cool. 1/1 that has an ability that can grow it, but and draw cards. Just not quite where Pauper is at the moment. 3 mana to pseudo draw a card is just not quite good enough. Staggering Size, just a combat trick for limited. Walk with Ancestors. You know, a regrow is kind of cool, but for 5 mana, not really. And then Discover 4, as we talked with the red one, which this one is obviously better than the red one, but still not quite good enough. So you get a regrowth for 1 mana technically if you hit a 4 mana value creature or 4 mana value thing and can cast it. So you're saving 4 mana there, and so this is like a 1. But on average, it depends on how you build your deck, but this is not going to save you 4 mana every time. So sometimes you're going to hit like a 1 mana creature, and so you paid 4 or 1 mana card. So you paid 4 mana to regrow a permanent. So just not quite good enough. And it obviously has the same weaknesses that any of these kind of return a permanent from the graveyard have. Is the effect can be nullified if they, in response, exile it, and then you lost your target, so you can't discover 4. All right, so green really, unfortunately, did not get very good cards. Over the Edge is interesting, but it's really not going to see play. These two ETB Explore creatures are kind of cool, but I just can't really envision a home. Even, you know, imagining the best case and the worst case scenario of what the best case scenario of getting whatever you want off of the Explorer, if you wanted to draw the land, or if you wanted the +1/+1 counter. Either effect is not that good. And then we have a good Reanimator target, but again, that's not really a green deck. It's just a card, a deck that's going to use Bristleback, the fact that you can cycle it for colorless for that effect. And that's pretty much it, unfortunately. So green kind of got the shaft this set, I would have to say. But so let's move on to colorless lands and the rest. See ya.